All right, so I asked on my story last week a bit of a Q&A. So these are all the questions that came through. There's quite a few. There's 101 in total, so we'll see how many we can get through. I'm going to go pretty rapid fire, so I will add more in detailed answers. So if you do want that, drop a comment and I can go into greater detail. All right, can you write a book on finances and how to achieve 7 figures? I feel like most of my stuff on finances comes inside Amplify, which is growing a personal brand. However, as a small rule of thumb, spend less than you make. I've always been big on that. Try and be frugal with what you have and invest it. Put it in a mutual fund. Not a financial advisor, but S&P 500. I've literally done that with a lot of my money. Year on year, average like a 10 or 15% return. Such a good way to do it. It means that you move with the market and beat inflation. How many calories you spend a day versus calories you consume to stay lean and build muscle? Depends person to person. As a rule of thumb, you should probably be at maintenance calories if you want to stay lean and build muscle at the same time. So what I would be doing there, or maybe slight surplus, is 15 times your body weight in pounds for your maintenance, and then maybe add 100 to 200 calories. Again, it's about probably lifting strong. I would be caring more about progressively overloading. If you want to reduce down, then increase some cardio, do some zone 2. I probably wouldn't recommend running. It will spike your hunger. You're better off doing like zone 2 on a bike or swimming. Do you ever get injured? And if so, how do you handle them? Yes, I've had shin splints in the past before. To be honest, for me, and probably for a lot of athletes out there, it's about doing less. And coaches talk about this all the time. The way I deal with injuries is I do have to just dial back and I move to a lower impact style of training. So if I'm going from running, it's probably me sitting on a bike. Yes, it's not as much fun as running. I wish I could just run endlessly all the time, but it's high impact, so it does cause injuries. So you've just got to work around those things. To prevent injuries, I do a lot of prehab and a lot of injury prevention work. So that's stuff like knees over toes, Ben Patrick, and all of the exercises you see, including all the mobility. How long have you been training? It's probably about 11 years now. I feel like I started when I was 14. I started because of rugby and was just trying to pack on as much size as possible. I used to have a garage gym. Thank you to my dad for setting that up. Invested in some dumbbells, and it was like very much old garage tin shed, but it made such a big difference having that available where I was, and I just spent every moment I possibly could in there. I absolutely loved it pretty much since I was 14 and just fell in love with it. Fun fact, when I was like 16, I could deadlift 200 kgs. I couldn't deadlift 200 kgs now, to be honest. I reckon I'd be pretty close. But yeah, at 16, I was crazy into lifting heavy. So definitely started from like a real strength background, which was great because then it transferred into all of the other things I was doing. Advice for a route to get off the tools. Find something that you're really passionate about, whether that's like a skill, upskill in that. Whether that's going to be like videography, photography, and then ideally it's overlapping with an industry that you can get paid for as well. So there's lots of ways. I'd say skill and like stacking skills is how you're going to get anywhere in life. For example, I stacked the skill of content creation with the skill of sales, which then allowed me to build an audience and then sell to that audience as well. So I'd say learn about stacking skills and just work out what the easiest skill to start with is, and then begin with that, and then you can start stacking on top of it. What shoes would you recommend for someone to start running as a beginner? I wear these are Nike Invincible 3s. I reckon they're really good, really padded as well. Again, go to like an Athlete's Foot or whatever local one you have. They often let you test them and just make the most of testing them because everyone's running stride is different and you need a shoe that's going to be good for that. I have like more of a heel stride, as opposed to like someone who lands on the toe. So like I like a slightly more cushioned heel, so then I'm like rolling forward. It's like a little bit personal, a bit like there's not the perfect fit for everything. How to ball on a budget with groceries. I recommend going to like markets, go to a local grocery store like Harris Farm. They've got imperfect ones which are a lot more affordable for you to use. I'd also say buying in bulk, particularly if you want a lot of meat. Like meat tends to be the most expensive thing. If you can buy in bulk, like from a butcher and things like that, like buy your mince, instead of buying it in 500 grams, buy it in kilos. It tends to be a lot cheaper. What's your next fitness goal? I'd say sub 1 hour high rocks, which I'm gonna do in November. And then also running this marathon in China, which is along the Great Wall of China. And it's gonna be so hectic and gnarly. Apparently the fastest time to finish it is like 3 hours and 30 minutes. So given most marathons, it's normally like 2 hours, 10 minutes. It's gonna be a pretty hectic one. I think it's like 5,000 stairs and 3K of incline. So that is gonna be a gnarly run. So probably just focusing on that, not getting injured, and then a high rocks towards the end of the year. How could I combine street lifting with good cardio stuff to build muscle? I assume street lifting, you mean calisthenics. I would say stick to your basics. So like pike push-ups, pull-ups, body weight squats, and then running. Such a good combination. If you can, try and progressively overload by either adding more reps, slowing down the tempo, or adding weight as well. Weighted calisthenics is a great way to build muscle. What's your motivation? It's a great question. I think just finding your optimal life path. And what I mean by that is like reducing the difference between who you should become if you were like 100% yourself, and if you could die and you go up to wherever you finish and they say, this is the path that you could have taken. Like I really like that story of someone going up, they go to the gate, they're there at, the maker, and they show them a quick video and it goes, this is your life. And then the guy goes, no, hold up, that wasn't my life. And it's basically saying, well, this could have been your life, but this is what you decided to do. And I think reducing that gap is my goal, and trying to reduce the gap between who I could have become and who I actually became. So I think it's chasing the best life path and the best version of yourself, which can sound, a bit cheesy, but at the end of the day, it's like, it gets me out of bed because I have a fear in a way that I'm not there yet. And I think that's what keeps you hungry and keeps you climbing the mountain. And as you get to the top of the mountain, it's great because then you get a view and you can see that there's a bigger mountain in the future. So it's always a balance between satisfaction and pride. And I think I love that. Christian Guzman, he was a big YouTuber that I used to watch growing up, and I love that, proud but never satisfied. And I think the lack of satisfaction is what keeps you hungry. But you need to be proud in what you've achieved and also have that opportunity to look back down the mountain and go, shit, that was pretty good. And I climbed it with some great mates as well. How to boost mental health? Start exercising. I actually think all mental health can at least start through exercise and be boosted. I think if you start looking after yourself physically and start proving to yourself and holding those commitments to yourself, if you say you're going to get up early and run, you get up early and run. The more promises you can hold to yourself, I feel like the happier you will be because you're not breaking commitments to yourself all the time. If you tell yourself that you're going to eat healthy and you achieve that, there's a level of satisfaction which releases dopamine and can cause a positive flow-on effect in your life. If you keep breaking promises with yourself, it's very hard to get out of a rut, both because you break the promises and stop yourself getting out of that rut, but also just that you sort of disappoint and you let yourself down. So I'm a big believer, if you can't hold promises to yourself, how can you expect anyone else to hold promises for them? How to maintain lean? Honestly, just stay super active day to day. I think walking 10,000 steps a day is super underrated. I know it's hard if you have a sedentary job, but try and put yourself in positions where you need to walk. For example, walking to work, walking to the bus, walking to the train, not taking an Uber there, walking to the gym. I see so many people drive to a gym, and I've always been a huge believer in why would I ever drive to the gym? I find it so strange when people drive to a gym and then walk on the treadmill. I'm such a big believer in walking to the gym and getting that exercise in daily life. When I'm in the gym, it's obviously my strength-based training, but I sort of see every moment of life as an opportunity to train. Need abs like you, been trying since long, but in India, very difficult, please help. I think ab training and core training should be treated like everything else. Instead of trying to do body weight circuits and do these hit, blast, 5-minute core burning, treat it like every other muscle group. Progressively overload it and add weighted ab movements. That's what's going to create a blocky formation in your ab. So weighted crunches, all of those sort of things, instead of trying to do an absolute blaster. If you could go back at the start of your fitness journey, what would you have done differently? Probably more mobility. I would have loved to have had an emphasis on mobility throughout the whole time. I didn't find that until I met Jake, which was sort of in the last 3-4 years. And I feel like if I could go back, it'd be less strength focused, although that was really important, but it would also have a more balanced approach to mobility as well. I think I also would have integrated more breath work and more mindfulness into my training. I still have issues now because it's just a habit. It's hard to get out where I hold my breath when I'm doing strength work. I would love to have a great breathwork system that I could lean on for that style of training. How much running do you do in a week? Right now, around 40 to 50 kilometers. I'll increase that as I get close to the marathon. The max I'll get to is 60 or 70. Beyond that, I just start to get injured and my body breaks down. Hi mate, I'm 75 kgs, but aiming to be 80 kgs for an Ironman in October. Any tips? This is something really important as you start to get more and more hybrid athletes out there and people wanting to do endurance. I think like if your pure goal is to put on 5 kgs, then it's like doing an Ironman is working completely against that, because you're going to be burning so many calories while you train for that. You're training for like a ridiculous endurance event. So if your goal is to put on 5 kgs, then I'd be like, don't do an Ironman. But if your goal is to run the Ironman first, you need to have a priority in your goal set. It's like, prioritize the Ironman, kill that at 75 kgs, get a really good time, and you won't get injured because you're 5 kgs lighter, so there's less force going through your body when you run. And then after the Ironman, sure, bulk up to 80 kgs and focus on putting on muscle. This is really important for anyone running marathons, things like that. You can't, I know it feels like everyone around you, or particularly on social media, that people are like, oh, they're lifting more and they're running further, like how is it possible? That's just, you can't have that. You just need to focus on one thing and then focus on another. And that's the beauty of it as well. Like fitness, you can have different goals at different points. I don't always want to be super lean. Sometimes I want to be heavier. I don't always want to be super fit. Sometimes I want to be stronger, and you can ebb and flow with that as well. How did you find the right friend group? It's a great question, and I get this a lot. To be honest, it takes a lot of time. And I mean this from the perspective of, it's not necessarily always putting yourself in the scenario of like, oh, you've got to go out to like more networking events, do that. I actually think you've got to do a lot of work on yourself. I'm a huge believer on build the garden and the butterflies will come. Do the work on self, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and people will feel that energy. I'm a huge believer in like good energy and the law of attraction. And I think if you're someone that people want to be around because they feel your energy, they feel that you've worked through your traumas, you've worked through all the stuff. If you can get to that point, people will come to you and they'll gravitate towards you. So I would say the best way to find a friend group is to work on yourself to begin with. How many days a week are you in the gym, and for how long? At the moment, I'm doing 4 strength sessions. I'm doing 2 additional like cardio HIIT style sessions, and then I'm running 3 times a week. My strength sessions predominantly at the moment are like 5x5 lifts on things like deadlifts, front squat, Zercher squat, Bulgarian squat, and then I do a bunch of upper body stuff to complement that, like weighted dips, pull-ups, all of that side. Reason being, training for this marathon, so just trying not to get injured and build all of my strength in my ligaments and joints to support all the running load that I'm doing. Have you ever tried Olympic weightlifting? No, and I suck at Olympic weightlifting. Like my technique is dog shit. I can sort of throw up some okay weight because I just muscle it, but the technique is horrible because I was never taught when I was younger. What's your rough split of social media incomes between programs, coaching, and sponsors? Well, programs and coaching are pretty much together, and that's like 90% of my income. 10% come from sponsors. When I set out, I said, I do not want to be an influencer. I want to be a business owner that leverages social media and my audience. So one of the biggest things for me was moving away from that and not relying on brand deals. I think if you're an influencer that's just waiting for the handout of brands, just puts you in such a shit position, and you have to accept brand deals with brands you don't really want to work with. I'm in a fortunate position. I get to work with the brands that I actually want to work with because I don't rely on them for income. How do you overcome bad thoughts or overthinking? Honestly, like working on whatever it is. For me, I always just work through it. Like if something's giving me anxiety or if it's uncontrollable, I think you need to learn to let go. But if it's in your control, just go and do the thing. You're normally anxious or you have bad or negative thoughts because you're delaying action on some task that you know is daunting and you need to do. Just go and take action. I hate procrastination. I think you should just go and do the thing. I'm the biggest believer in like not really having a to-do list. I just do the thing. I'll put a to-do list, but just for today. I never make it for like a week or a month because just do the thing. Just get started. And in the motion of action, I think you'll overcome a lot of that negative energy. Do you play any sports growing up? Yes, I played rugby. I was a flanker, which is number 6 or number 7. I played a bit of both, but mainly number 6. For anyone who's outside of Australia or New Zealand, rugby, you probably know rugby sevens. But yeah, very fun, enjoyed it. It was a great introduction to like camaraderie, team sport, and also just some like brute strength and a very physically demanding sport as well. Best core weighted exercises. My favorites are the weighted rope core crunches. I also like putting a dumbbell between my legs and doing the knee sit-ups. And then I actually really like, it's not really weighted, but you could weight it if you're a beast. You put a single leg on sort of like a sit-up, and you just do like a single leg hip flexor crunch, and it's incredibly tough on the abdominals. You could put a plate behind it as well, but most people don't need it. Also hollow holds, I love as well. Is posting multiple times a day going to boost my chances of growing an audience? Yes. The more times you post, the more exposure you get. There is some downside risk if the quality is like massively dropping. But what I would say with that is social media and content creation is just putting ideas out there. You're filming and editing is the execution of the ideas, but the ideas are the most important part. Filming and editing, it just needs to make sense. People just need to understand the idea. The more ideas you throw at the wall, the more chance you're going to have at resonating. If the idea doesn't resonate, it's going to be lost. So I'd say if you're producing more ideas, it should be the only bottleneck to you producing more content. Then more ideas, the better, because you're exposing more ideas and you're testing more things with your audience. How can I recover properly and fit in stuff when I play hockey 5 times a week? Yeah, I think like, again, comes back to your training schedule, but honestly, focus maybe on hockey and just being the best hockey player possible. I would probably allocate some of that time to some strength training. So get in and out of the gym as fast as possible. Focus on your compound lifts so you don't have to be there forever. Things like squat, deadlift, bench press, if you can nail those, shoulder press, those are probably the lifts that you need to be most like proficient at. And just do a lower volume, like do 3 times 5, for example, but make those 3 sets really solid. How do you stay disciplined? I think ultimately discipline's one of those things where like the longer you stay at it, it's like a muscle that's learned. You just need to put yourself in situations that are hard almost continuously. And I love that concept of like, I think they've determined some part of the brain, it's got a very long name, Huberman talked about it, where over time, if you stop doing hard things, no matter how sharp it was before, it shrinks as well. So it shows that you have to show up and do this every single day. It's not just like a one-off, oh, it's hard and you're now disciplined for life. Discipline is a skill that you have to work on every single day. Use creatine monohydrate. Yes, I do. It's one of the few supplements that I actually do use, but yes, I use creatine monohydrate and I use electrolytes, 5 grams a day, every day. No, you don't need to load it. No, you don't need to cycle it. Just have it every single day. It helps with cognitive and physical function. Do you think it's possible to monetize in a non-tangible niche? Mindset, discipline, yes, I do. Mindset, discipline, self-help, emotional intelligence, you can monetize in many different ways. There just needs to be pain in that niche. So someone needs to be going through something where they've self-identified that they need help, and then you need to provide a solution to their problem set. Best workout splits for women in their early 30s. To be honest, there's a reason why I specialize in male training. I am more proficient at training males that train similar to me. Women in their early 30s, I would say do more strength training. Most females buy away from strength training because they're worried about looking bulky and big. That won't happen. Trust me, there's plenty of guys that have tried to get bulky and big for years and years and they struggle. So I would say focus on some strength training, and then you can build in all the stuff that you're probably naturally going to do anyway, like yoga and Pilates and that. But having maybe 2 to 3 days that are focused purely on strength training will be incredibly beneficial for bone density as you age as well. What does breakfast look like for you? Just eggs, to be honest. Normally 4 eggs, maybe an avocado, maybe some kimchi. I don't have a camera or iPhone. How can I start getting into fitness content? I'd say the barrier is pretty low, but having some sort of device that has a camera on it is important. How do I lose body fat? Move more and eat less. It's really as simple as that. If you could break it down, it would be like training 4 times a week. I would say hit your 10,000 steps, count your calories, because you may not actually know that you're having more calories than you think. So it's worth tracking for at least a week. And then after that, you can stop as long as it's at that point. Work out your maintenance calories by 15 times your body weight in pounds. How did you start out your fitness content creation journey? I started in September 2023. I was working in a corporate job and I started documenting my 75-day hard journey. From there, it took me to over 100K followers in 75 days. I then went all in on my personal brand, launched my fitness coaching, and the rest has been history. How do you think of video ideas? There's 2 types of ideation, internal and external. Internal ideation comes from your USP, unique selling proposition. That's everything that makes you you. Your expertise in life, everything that's got you to this point today. So you can lean on all the stories and lessons you've learned in life. That may be stories that you've reflected on, for example, things that you've done and you wish you did differently, or just things that you've managed to accomplish and how you got there. You may have learned it from other people along the way. Then there's external ideation, which is where I look at model creators in my niche that are speaking on similar topics, and I take the winning topics that they're already speaking on, and then I craft it and put it into my own voice. Is consistency over quality the major concern when starting out? I would say you need to be consistent to get to good quality. If you're not consistent, you're not testing it enough and you're not doing the reps, so you don't actually get better. So give yourself an opportunity to improve and stay incredibly consistent and go with quantity. But yes, you need to get better, but so it's consistently improving and getting 1% better every single day. But if you don't post every day, you don't give yourself the chance to do that. So don't let perfection get in the way of progress. How to maintain high intensity training but not get prolonged mental and physical fatigue. Come down to your recovery. I'd say sleep is probably the most important factor. If you can sleep for 8 hours a night, this is going to help massively with all of your recovery. Better than all the supplements, probably topped over like nutrition, training, everything. Sleep is the most important. When are you coming to Bali? 1st of May till the 13th of May. I'll be there with a whole crew of us. All the Raw Dog boys are coming, bunch of boys from Sydney. So yeah, if you're around, let's definitely connect. How tall and heavy are you? I'm about 88 kgs, which is about 190 pounds, I think. And I am 6'1" on a good day with these shoes. Hey Alfie, do you want children one day? Yes, I do. How many years of strict dieting and training do you need to achieve this physique? I mean, I've trained for 10 years, but it definitely doesn't take 10 years. I think 3 years of like a really solid base of training. And then if you dialed in your nutrition, you could get lean and you could look aesthetic and you could have a nice base of muscle as well. Where do you invest? Typically invest in S&P 500. As I said before, it's where a lot of my money is at the moment. Looking at buying at the moment, so gonna go into property. Hi Alfie, what is your opinion about protein bars yogurts? Are they really healthy? Greek yogurt's great. Protein bars, just read the label. A lot of them are filled with shit. The macros may be good, but they've just got fucking huge ingredient lists. So just read it and just have some common sense. If you can't pronounce a lot of the words, probably not great for you. How do you eat healthy when traveling and look for a gym? I literally use Google Maps, and one of my favorite things, maybe this is from growing up with a garage gym, but I enjoy the really small, dingy gyms. Like, yes, sometimes going to a luxury gym's like really nice, and they've got, you know, towels, and they come and give you like a hot or a cold towel, whatever. But going to like the dingy, I don't know, local gym where it's like filled with locals and like it's rusted equipment. I don't know, something I really like about that. I think it's like, it's very honest work. So I just use Google Maps, and then eating healthy, just always prioritize protein at the end of the day, and just stay away from all the stuff that you know is bad for you anyway, like the sugary stuff, processed food, all the stuff if you're at home you wouldn't eat. But for some reason when people travel, they go, oh, I'm on holiday, like my insulin levels must act differently while I'm on holiday, but that's not the case. So I'd say just stick to what you already know. How to make 1K a month online. Start a personal brand, sell something for 1K. You only need one sell. My current audience is Uzbek. Is it better to make English or Uzbek? Do you want to sell to people in Uzbek or in English speaking countries? Probably larger accessible market in English. Although it may be a harder time depending if it's your first language or not. So I think decide where your target avatar is and then speak to them, whether that's in English or Uzbek. What's your sleep routine? Try to go to bed before 9 p.m. Biggest one is not having my phone, although I'm very bad at doing that. And I try to be in bed at 9, probably go to sleep around 10, and then I wake up anywhere from 5:30 to 6. I've got this thing that blocks my phone. It's called social limits. I can't open my phone until I walk. So that's probably the most important thing for me, is not sitting in bed scrolling first thing, because that is horrible for your mental health. We ever do a Hyrox? Yes, in roughly November this year. Do you think you'll continue with sobriety long term or indefinitely? Yes, I just don't see a reason to escape my reality anymore. Like, I love my life so much that the concept of drinking and taking myself out of it would be less enjoyable. And that wasn't always the case, and that's probably why I used to drink. How to change my reputation. You've just, like, reputation takes years to build. You've just got to start by changing who you actually are and the way that you act, and over time that's going to change your reputation. It's not an overnight job. It takes years to build a reputation and seconds to destroy one. Do you still drink alcohol, or did you completely cut it off? Completely cut it off. I just really don't need it. Look, if it was like a best friend's wedding, sure, I'd have a drink. I'm not like completely opposed to it where I would never, ever, ever have it, but I just do not need it, and I do not crave it in the slightest. If I've cracked knees, what exercises do you recommend? Walking backwards, either on a treadmill or if you've got a sled, I would just build up in weight and focus on walking backwards, knees over toes. Ben Patrick, absolute god. How do you balance strength training and cardio without losing muscle? Just increase or ensure that you're progressively overloading while you're increasing your cardio. So make sure that you are getting stronger. If you're getting weaker, it's probably a sign that you're going to lose muscle. So just try and stay as strong as possible. I feel like it's easier to maintain strength as a goal rather than maintain muscle, because muscle's like someday you look good, someday you look bad. Have you had salt? All of these factors go into like whether someone looks muscly, whereas at least strength, like the weights don't change week on week. So at least it's like a more objective measure of whether you're actually staying strong. What's the secret to being full of energy? What lifestyle changes are required? Eat whole foods, probably one of the most important. Caffeine is fantastic if you're not having it 8 hours before bed. I normally don't have it first thing as well. But I think also to have energy all the time, like remember, Instagram's a highlight reel. I don't have energy all the time. Like sometimes I crash and I want an afternoon nap, but most of the time I have pretty good prolonged energy. I also think if you're genuinely excited and passionate about what you do every day, like I wake up every day I work and I fucking love it because I love what I do. And I think that gives me energy as well. Also surrounding yourself with good people. You read other people's energy as well. There's definitely energy drainers in life and stay away from them. What's the best way to grow a podcast on social media? Clip all of your content. Your podcast is basically the base format for your content. So you're creating hours and hours of content that needs to be redistributed on short form media. There's loads of great clipping tools out there like Descript where it'll automatically clip up everything and then get an editor probably from maybe Ukraine, Philippines to do some edits over the top. Nothing super high production, just some added B-roll to help visualize and tell the story, and then distribute that on short form because you're going to get a hell of a lot more views on short form rather than just posting it to YouTube and to Spotify. How do you film your running content without ruining your runs? Again, with content, I think you have to accept sometimes you need to separate those things. For me, it's a little 0.5 job and a lot of my content's like easy like that. And it sort of just becomes pretty autonomous. But I agree, if you're having a really hard training session, you want to be dialed in, don't film that or get someone else to film it. Like you have to sometimes treat content creation as a separated thing. I know our iPhone's always with us, which makes it really easy to think we can just blend it into every part of life. Sometimes you need the separation and you need to have an allocated time that you're going to film your training or you're going to film your running. So I think having that separation, accepting that you can't always do everything multitask is sometimes a good thing. Do you fast? Yeah, sporadically, not really like a planned process, sometimes till midday, sometimes till 2 p.m. Caffeine affects muscle hydration negatively. Not sure about this, but I love caffeine. I think coffee is pretty dehydrating, so just make sure you have electrolytes before it. Thoughts on TikTok versus Instagram? Instagram, every day of the week. All of my customers come from Instagram. TikTok's just like, I don't know, it's just additional, but I don't really care about it. When you're back in LA for a lift, I'll see. I'm not a huge fan on LA, to be completely honest, but if I am back there, I'll hit you up. What microphone do you use for recording? It's a Rode microphone. Should I stop drinking? Yes. If you want your life to improve, I suggest you take at least some period off alcohol. That's exactly what I did, and in 75 days, I completely changed my life. That's all for now. Thank you for watching.